How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good to hear.
Open your
What?
slide.
Oh yeah, you're right. My bad. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, my name's Nick Mall. I'm going to be doing Chapter 6, Learning Objective 6, Engaging the Customer. I'm a junior, professional sales and marketing major. And fun fact, I just started playing basketball here at Plymouth. What we'll be talking about today, what requesting an appointment can accomplish, also the means of requesting an appointment, 3 important rules to follow when requesting an appointment, and then a quick ethical dilemma that was in my chapter I thought that you guys could give me some feedback on. Alright, so requesting an appointment accomplishes, if we don't have a football obviously, I think one of you guys could read the first one for me.
Lets the prospect know his or her time is important.
Yeah, so basically, lets the prospect know his or her time is important. When you're calling over to somebody, you don't want to give like a ridiculously long sales pitch because you never know if that person is busy with something else. They could have other projects during that day. So if you ask for an appointment, it kind of respects their time. They'll find that. I mean, they'll definitely be happy with that. Someone read the next one.
Allows your prospect to give the salesperson their undivided attention.
Exactly. So for this one, if you call over and get an appointment with someone rather than just calling and trying to get your sales pitch together right over the phone, you're going to get a one-on-one conversation with them, and they're going to set that time apart just for you. So they're going to be listening to everything you're saying. But if you call over and just start talking about something they might not be interested in, the chances are they're probably not going to be paying attention to anything you're saying. Then someone just read the last one for me.
Helps to improve a salesperson's time management skills.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so this one, just if you're a salesperson, having a calendar filled with appointments is way easier to manage your time that way rather than just making a bunch of random sales calls. So the means of requesting an appointment, you have a phone call, you can make a phone call, you can send an email, personal contacts. If you know somebody that can help you get an appointment with someone you're trying to get an appointment with, then there's a face-to-face encounter. Basically, if you go into like the store, ask to see a manager and see if you can get an appointment with them right there. The most effective way to schedule an appointment is a phone call plus a follow-up email. Last time I think I told you guys I had like an internship this summer, and like every time I made a phone call, a sales call, I had to follow it up with an email. So I mean, that's just like the normal procedure I think with most companies. 3 important rules to follow. Can I have someone just read the first one? Once again, we know the football, so Cody, you want to read the first one for me?
Give the prospect a reason for the appointment to be granted.
Yeah, you want to let them know whatever you're trying to sell to them is going to benefit them. You don't just call over and just ramble on about nothing. Like you have to give them a reason to grant you the appointment. And then the second and third one is just request a specific amount of time and suggest a specific time for the appointment. This is important because you want to make sure you're not asking them what time works for you, because if you're asking that, they have to go into their calendar over the phone with you and check for like an open date, and they're not going to want to do that. So if you request a specific time, it's just much more respectful. So yeah, I had a really short learning objective, so I figured I'd just toss in the ethical dilemma from my chapter. And so basically the ethical dilemma was when trying to get in touch with your prospect, is it wrong to lie to the gatekeeper, like the receptionist, by telling them you know the prospect personally, so you'll have a better chance of getting to talk to him. When I had like my internship this summer, I'd call over, my boss had me like a contact sheet, and he tried to get me to get in touch with like a bunch of directors of like the marketing department. So I'd go online, try and find the directors of marketing, and like when I'd call the receptionist, I'd have a name already. So I don't know, it was kind of like cheating to get past the receptionist. I'd call over and say like, oh, I know this guy, and I just wanted to see if like what feedback from you guys, if anyone thought like that was unethical or anything like that. That's really like the last thing I had. So if anyone, go ahead.
I think it's using the resources wisely. I mean, yeah, maybe a little sneaky, but I mean, nowadays it's what you have to do to get through to people.
Yeah, I personally agree with what you just said, just because, yeah, sometimes when I would call and I wouldn't have the contact, it would take forever to get past the receptionist, and I don't know, I think it's a good strategy, so, what about you?
I just think it's using your network to your advantage.
I agree with that as well. So, yeah, that's it. Does anyone was my first question?
Can we go back to the 3 rules?
Yep. 3 important rules to follow.
Thank you.
Second you did.
All right, Nick. Good job.
On this morning.
Good.
Great.
I'm doing good. My name is Shamar Morgan, and I'm a sophomore here at PSU, and I'm studying marketing and professional sales as my major. About me, this is just a con I'd like to get after I graduate. 5 Series BMW. BMW is my favorite car manufacturer, so I just thought I'd throw that in. The intro, we're going to be talking about why effective sales dialogue is so important, how it can relate to the surgeon. I didn't say relate to a surgeon, I just got it out of the book, so I guess it's valid. What the keys to an effective sales dialogue are. Example of when I've had to customize a customer's order at my previous job. Review summary, and then a Q&A. How does this relate to surgery? Well, you have to, it's very complex and requires preparation, knowledge, and a lot of skill. I was supposed to read that. If someone would like to read the second slide.
Info has to be acquired by surgeon sales rep prior to the surgery or meeting.
Thank you, Eric. Someone like to read the third bullet point for me, please? Nick, would you like to read the third one?
Yeah, on the diagnosis of the client/patient situation, a solution should be customized specifically to suit their specific situation.
Thank you. Keys to an effective sales dialogue. There's 6 of them in the book. If you guys would just like to go down like the line and read it, please, if you don't mind. Colleen?
Are planned and practiced by salespeopeople.
Oh, we're gonna read.
Encourage buyer feedback.
Focus on creating value for the buyer.
Is there any value in an interesting and understandable way?
Engage and involve the buyer.
And Jamie, would you like to take the last one from me, please? Support. Customer value. Alright. So those are the keys to it. What I said for a personal experience about like when you have to like customize like something to like suit a specific like person. I remember when I was busing at the Puritan back room. I don't know. I know Eric probably knows what that is. It's like the top like restaurant in like Manchester, like the mayor and like governor's always there. But I was busing there and like people would come in and like they'd want like a certain ice cream that was on the menu, but they didn't like it wasn't like what they wanted wasn't like on the menu, so I had to customize it specifically for them. So that's just something I felt like a personal example that would suit their needs. Summary, we went over how important salespeople are and how they can relate to that job of a surgeon, just as valuable importance. The keys to an effective sales dialogue and my personal experience. And what was my first question?
What do you drive now?
Me? I have a Nissan Maxima.
Why not 7 Series?
Huh?
Why 5 Series and not 7 Series?
That's just like way more money, dude.
Simple, man.
You have transmission rate.
Is there any more questions? No.
All right.
You're going?
You good?
Alright, cool. Hey everybody, I'm Alex Marson. I'm here doing objective number 2, encouraging buyer feedback. Just to start off, who here snowboards or skis? Right on. Who here goes to Loon Mountain? Nice. I got my dream job this winter. I'm actually going to be a ski patroller this winter. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
My job is literally snowboard. Can't do better than that.
Jealous.
Now, what is buyer feedback? Buyer feedback is when, during the process of selling to a potential customer or buyer, you're constantly talking to them and you're getting feedback from the buyer. With this feedback, you're able to alter your sales pitch or presentation to kind of get the customer more involved, because the more involved the customer is during the sales process, the more invested in the product you're trying to sell to them they are. Who wants to read this first slide? Who wants to take the first little bullet up there? All right, Colin, you go.
While in the sales process, constantly check in with the buyer with questions such as,
Who wants to read the first question?
How does it sound to you?
Is this making sense?
Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah. By constantly checking in with the customer, you keep them involved in the buying process. You don't want us to be like a one-sided thing. Like, have you ever been in like in a retail experience where you're constantly being talked to and talked to and talked about a sales associate about a product? That's really no good. Because if you're involved, like if you're asking questions, that means you really care about what you're trying to buy. And the more you care about something, the more likely you're going to buy it. Like, for example, during the past 3 summers, I've worked a job editing videos, and eventually got to the point where I had to get my own computer, because eventually I started, on my own time, I started working in an independent video studio, and I didn't really know what I needed to buy. So when I went to a Dell store, they had this really great salesperson there who walked me through the experience. Like, I told him what I needed and why I needed it, and he kept asking me questions like, do you want this, 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 in regards to rendering speeds and all that stuff. And because of him, I walked away with a much better experience than I would have otherwise. Like, if it's just some generic salesperson like at Best Buy says, do you want this many, this much memory and all that stuff that doesn't really apply to what I was trying to do with my computer, I probably would not be able to do my job as well as I am now, thanks to the salesperson that actually knew what he was talking about and kept me involved during the sales process. I already kind of went over this a little bit, but this is why it's important. Who wants to read this slide?
Less successful salespeople rush through the entire presentation from beginning to end and never stop to invite feedback from the buyer. This prevents the salesperson from being able to gauge the buyer's interest in what is being said and making the sales experience less beneficial for both parties involved.
Thanks, Matt. Like I already said, if both parties are involved, they're both going to walk away from this experience better off, because the salesperson gets a better gauge of the buyer's interest, and the buyer gets a better understanding of the salesperson's knowledge of what they want to buy or sell. First quiz. Who wants to read the first? Who wants to make a guess what the first word is?
Check this.
Yes, right on. 100% for you. Second one.
responsible.
100% for you too. Got a bunch of smart people in this class today. The best time for feedback, you don't want to constantly be asking them questions like every single second during the sales presentation. You want to ask them during certain points. Like for example, after you're if you're trying to sell a car and you just list off a bunch of miles per hour, not the average miles per gallon, all that good stuff. You want to ask them a question like, do you understand? That way you can make sure they're paying attention. Because if they're drifting off, not really paying attention, odds are they're not really interested in what you're trying to sell them. Another time is when, let's say they ask you, if they ask you a really broad question, that's typically a good time to say, you understand this so far, or where are we so far in this presentation? Always follow up a question with another question, the book told me to say. And when you feel as if the conversation's completely one-sided, if you've been talking nonstop for 5 minutes, that means it's typically time to step up and ask a question. You always want to have both parties constantly involved in the conversation. Wrapping this up, buyer feedback is important because not only will it help gauge interest and help the sales process along, it helps build a relationship between the salesperson and the buyer. And according to the professor, salespeople, their #1 job is to build relationships. It helps the salesperson get a feel for the interest the buyer might have in the product. That helps you along because you don't want to waste time trying to sell something to people if they're not really that interested in the product. And in the sales role, always ask questions and keep them involved, because the more involved they are, the more likely they're going to buy from you. Now, who was my first question?
Did you get that job at Loon because of networking?
I just went to the job fair.
Nice.
I wish it was for networking. That would have gotten more jobs there. Anyone, any other questions? All right, cool.